Blind justice, justice for all, equal opportunity under the law. These are ideals that we cherish as Americans. And we've learned that the law is fundamental to our life together. The Constitution directs it, and we look to the Constitution as the guide for this law. But what really is the source of the law that guides and directs our lives together? Of course, many in the United States would agree that it's really the Constitution that's the source. We just kind of agree as a people and we say that's going to be the law. But if we turn our mind to God's truth, we realize that the law is much more fundamental than simply what judges or juries or even state or federal legislators might come up with. The law is fundamental to the very structure of the creation itself. The Formula of Concord, one of our confessional documents, part of the Book of Concord, the Formula of Concord actually has a very helpful definition for the law. The Formula of Concord tells us that the law is nothing more than the will of God for His creation. Now that's really helpful to us, because if we think about the law as being the will of God for His creation, it allows us to have a much more expansive and fundamental attitude towards the law. In other words, God didn't just sort of make up the law to sort of make our lives hard or miserable. It's not as if God said, well, let's see, what kind of commandment should I have to kind of keep these people in check? Let's have one about the murdering, and we'll throw one about stealing, and we'll throw one in about adultery. That'll really make them miserable. This is not the way it happened. The law is, in fact, a reflection of God's purposes, His very desires and design for how the creation is supposed to work, how we're supposed to get along with each other. That's what the law is. So the law is built into, wired into the very fabric of the creation itself. It's part of the creation. The law is not something that's just kind of pushed on or somehow derives from somewhere else. The law is there as part of the very groundwork of what God made when He created. That's what I mean when I talk about natural law. Now, I understand the term natural law has been used in different ways throughout time. Some philosophers thought natural law was a foolish idea. Some fought hard against it. But I think if we understand natural law as simply what God has built into the very fabric of the creation, that's a good working definition. And it describes very well for us this fundamental idea of law as being the will of God that's simply enforced for all of us. Let me illustrate a little bit kind of how this works. Imagine that you were going to a baseball game and you had the task, maybe the privilege, of bringing along an international friend who'd never seen a baseball game before but had heard about it. And so you're at the baseball game and you're watching the game as it starts, and of course your friend is asking questions. He wants to know about how the game works, so you're going to teach him. So you say, well, you get 3 strikes. And he says, well, why 3? Well, that's just kind of how the game works. Okay, fair enough. So 3 strikes, 3 chances to hit the ball. And then, well, and if the ball doesn't go where it's supposed to, that's called a ball, and you get 4 balls. Oh, why 4? He wants to know. You get 3 strikes, why 4 balls? Well, that's just the way the game works. So then you're watching some more, and the guy starts hitting a bunch of fouls off, and he says, well, how many foul balls do you get? Ha!